So how are you doing, Brandon?
I'm tired, I'm vaguely sick, and it's one of those things where I am my worst self right now, and there's part of me that's having a great time with it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you are. Hey, okay, you ready? Hey, did you get it?
Yeah,
Is it
I'm
set
ready.
up?
Yeah,
I can't see it. Oh, there it is. Okay.
yeah.
Uh, so hi, Andrew.
Hi, Brandon. Right, start. Okay, there we go.
One of the things I think about a lot, and I do want to. I'm fascinated by this concept. Is like, so we talk about like I don't know what the difference for me. I'm not speaking for anyone else. Of a personality, your personality and your coping mechanisms. The difference
Mhm.
between those two things are a lot thinner than I think we want to admit. Uh, because I'm a lot of my like, oh man, you have like a sarcastic personality. I'm like, yeah, it's mostly because I'm barely holding it together most of the time. Humor is the way I diffuse things. It's honestly most of the time, the funnier I get, the angrier I am. It's I like I like having a biting wit when I'm upset. It calms my soul in some way, but I
Yeah.
don't know at what point that is something that is trained into me, and that is something that is me. The question is, if you have these coping mechanisms that you've been using for so long, A, because everything's been so scary for so long, and B, because it's just how you survive. At what point does a coping mechanism become your personality? And is that I'm fine with that. Is it other people are like, well, that's terrible. That's not who you really are. And I'm like, no, I actually am a little bit the masks I wear.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question because there's sort of an easy trap to fall into.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not even right to call it a trap necessarily. I think it's just that uh, where where does the line blur
Hmm.
between like who because I totally agree. I mean, like with the example you're giving, I uh I definitely feel kind of similar, if I'm in a bad mood, or something. I mean, you have a much better comic wit than I do. But my version of that is, kind of a cynical or sarcasm or something like that,
Hmm.
where it's and I have noticed there are periods of times, days or weeks or sometimes months where I am constantly in that mindset.
Yeah, no, you're like you've been here, you've been grumpy guy so long that you are grumpy guy now. You're not
Right.
having a grumpy day. You're and like what and one of the things that it is to be human, I think, is that you are seen from the outside
Mhm,
and that you are seen by your actions, not your inner monologue.
mhm.
And what does that say about you and your personality?
Yeah. Well, and one of the reasons I thought about that in my own personal life is because like when I was younger, like in high school and m most people just referred to me as like the nice guy. I mean, I was always, the nice guy. And I mean, I feel, at least I hope that I'm still, a nice guy. But but sometimes I just feel like I'm no longer that nice guy. Like I feel like I'm just that grumpy, cynical guy, And I wonder like when did that change? Like how did that happen? Because I don't I want to be that like idealistic dreamer that
Right.
I was. And how did I become so cynical and jaded?
And I guess the other question is because it's so easy to go, and that's not okay, right?
Mhm.
But like maybe it is okay. Maybe this is part of my personality, and I need to accept that sometimes I can be a bit of a brat, and that
Yeah.
I need to embrace my brat self, and my old cynical man is trying to help me as well. Include maybe head in clouds, feet on ground is you have to respect your feet to keep your head up,
Mhm.
and that that the this is not I feel like we every once in a while we get one where I'm like, wow, this one's a little bit more wild than I meant it to be.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, just in talking to you
Hmm.
and getting to know you better, over the last year. I feel like you have changed a lot since you were a student.
Oh,
In a positive way.
oh,
In a positive way, I would say.
I mean, I often think, I think one of the things I've done is I have a lot of respect for my younger self. I actually like my
Mm.
younger self. He had a
Mhm.
lot of, I think it makes sense to like your inner early college student. But if you're still wailing at the world, it's time to chill out. Like I've worked hard to be more loving and accepting. I would love to be, and to realize that like I don't always have to be the smartest person in the room. Um, I wonder, we're of an age um, where the internet wasn't always in our life. And the internet does a lot of weird, bad stuff, and we kind of know that, right? And but it also like maybe chills people out a little bit, hopefully. Like I was thinking about I'm working on doing hand figures for mascot work, which is
Mm.
stick figures, right? It's something I want to teach myself so that my character can do it, because I think it would be a cool thing to suddenly you see a big mascot person just making cats cradles and stuff, and how
Mhm.
interesting that is. And I'm learning a lot from that on the internet, but I'm also learning that like, boy, there's a lot of people who are really good at stuff, and I should
Mm.
approach this with the level of humility that even if it's just silly string stuff, they know and you don't.
Mm.
One of the best things I learned. I think it took me a long time to learn how to learn. I don't know if I've said this on this podcast before, but it took, and like it's really hard. I wish when I started schooling as like a person with a full brain instead of just like 2 plus 2 and arithmetic, I wish someone told me that like everything you say is valid, every point of view you have is interesting, but not right now.
Mm.
Like right now, not right now, you're just trying to soak in information. All you have to, the it's a Zen master thing. um I read it in a golf book because I read a lot of golf
Mhm.
books. I,
Mm.
I would suggest everyone read golf books. Have I told you about this before?
No, I mean, and see, this is one of the things I like about you is you're constantly surprising me. So
So
it's
I don't
great.
play golf, and I have no interest in playing golf. I understand that it's really hard in the environment. Maybe someday you see this haircut and this shirt for a video library. I might play disc golf. Like that's, I'm not taking it off the table. I've seen fish. It could happen at any moment, right? But the thing about golf books is some of them are about your swing, and those are completely useless. But the ones that are trying to teach you to be like a human, you can take the golf part and sort of ignore it and focus on the human part. And unlike a lot of other self-help books where like everything is there to help you so you can have a lot of stuff jangling in your brain, this you can sort of you can pull out what you want a lot easier because there's a lot more garbage that you can just ignore. So one of the things I learned in it, it's the idea. Do you know the idea of the empty cup?
Uh, maybe, but
Okay, I'm going to teach you the idea of the empty cup, and
okay.
this is something that it's awesome, and it's something that I think in
Mm.
learning it has helped me out a lot. So this dude goes to a Zen master, and he's like studied all the Zen stuff in his big fancy school, right? And he goes in, he goes, well, this is what I think about this, is what I think about this, is what I think about this. And the Zen master goes, okay, cool. I want to show you something real quick. You want to have a cup of tea? He goes, of course. And the Zen master takes a cup of tea and he fills it and he gives it to the guy. And then he keeps filling the cup of tea. And the guy goes, what are you doing? He goes, do you see how this cup of tea is not holding any new tea? You have this tea, this cup can't hold more tea. You already have so much ideas that you can't have new ideas. So
Mm.
empty your cup and then come to fill your cup. Do not come with your cup already filled.
Mm.
And I think for me, that is like one of the biggest, like, oh, I wish I knew that so much sooner. And like, just kill your ego for temporary and go there to learn. And
Yeah.
like, that is the easiest, that's the fastest way to learn, is to
Mhm.
actually go to learn instead of trying to be the smart one, be the one who needs to learn.
Yeah.
So like that's one of the big things I learned in my golf books.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing, and it's really cool that you can pull something from, such a random source like that. I mean, like you said, I mean, neither of us are golfers, and but the fact that something can still be pulled from that is really cool, I think, and I think that um, it's that's a cool idea because I think kind of alluding what we were alluding to earlier, I think is partially the idea that you get to a certain point and you can look back and start to see all the mistakes that you've made,
Mhm.
and I agree. Like if I had done what you're saying, earlier, then probably a lot of those mistakes would have been avoided, because there is a lot of ego involved. There's like, okay, well, yeah, I already know how to do this, even though, clearly I didn't know how to do it, and I can see that across the board, and I can see it a lot clearer now, where, okay, if I had made this step instead of this other step, then, things might have turned out different, Um, so it's interesting but I think it's also interesting to be able to recognize that, but then it's an additional step to say, okay, now I'm going to start doing that. Because 10 years from now, I could be saying the same thing, like, damn it, why, why didn't I, make the same
Yeah. Well,
mistake?
there's this quote I do. I know we're doing a old guy thing where we're just
Yeah,
saying quotes. But there is a quote
exactly.
like the best time to start is 10 years ago. The second best time is today.
Mhm.
And like that's the thing is like you have to acknowledge it and see it and realize that you will make mistakes and like
Yeah.
try to accept your full human self while growing and learning
Mhm.
and moving in a direction. Like that is the magic trick to pull off and you know the ability to learn is the ability to self-accept and
Mhm.
the ability to self-accept is quite difficult.
Oh yeah, and that's something that I think I have more trouble with that now, than I did, whatever, 10 years ago, or whenever,
Yeah.
younger, because I think, like I was saying earlier, when I was younger, I think there's this combination of having this dreamer, idealistic attitude, where everything is possible. My future is bright, everything's going to open up, doors are going to open up and everything like that. It's that combination of that idealism and the, letting the ego get in the way,
Mhm.
that we were just talking about. Um, and so, uh, to be at a point now, where you can recognize that, you know, neither, both of those things are good and bad at the same time,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
then it's hard. Oh yeah, and I lost my train of thought. But what I was saying is, like, it's a lot harder for me to have like self-acceptance now, which, is always is ironic, because I think that when I was growing up, at least, like, it always appeared to me, and you were always sort of told, if not directly then indirectly, that when you get older, then, you know things would be better, or, yeah,
What a grand lie.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I do like I do, and it's something I've said a lot, and I will often bring up is like I do remember that it is a privilege to grow old that not everyone in my life got to have.
Mhm.
I've been to enough friends' funerals that
Yeah.
like I know every ache and creak and slow down is something that not everybody gets to feel, and that is a privilege. That being said, I would like to be a little less privileged sometimes. Um, and like it is interesting because it's one of the things that's sort of wild is like when you're making art and focusing on your dream and working and like figuring out what your dream is. And I'm 35, pushing 36. I'm almost so there's Dinner with Andre, right?
Mhm.
The not Andre, the inconceivable guy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's 36 in that movie,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
line is I used to think about art uh and music, and now I'm 36 and I only think about money. And like I was watching a little bit of Dinner with Andre last night, and I was like, oh, that's coming. That's coming.
Yeah. So there's this um similar experience that I had with have you read all of the Ayn Rand books,
No.
or any of them? Have you read any of them? No, what? Are you
Really?
serious?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I read
I
Douglas Adams. That was what I read.
No, no, I thought we had talked about it before, like, years ago. But anyway, so Ayn Rand, or Ayn Rand, depending on how
Uh,
you pronounce it. Like,
uh,
so the most famous one is Atlas Shrugged, of course.
yeah.
But there's this other book called The Fountainhead, which is it's similar ideas. I mean, all her books are the same ideas, you know, but the idea is that, I mean, the characters in it is that you've got one of the characters who is this very pure, he's always sticking to his ideals.
Hmm.
And then another character is the character who has compromised and like basically sold out, right? And it's interesting because, you know, when I read The Fountainhead when I was younger, then of course I identified with that idealistic person.
Hmm.
Yeah. And even the second time I read it, you know, I was still that idealistic person. But the third time I had sold out, man. It's
Dude,
like,
I get it, man.
yeah.
It's about their first rule is survival, sell out.
Yeah.
The thing is, and like it's the thing is it's something that I think has been talked about a lot. Is like you can't even. This is the I think we'll end on. I think is
Mhm,
like I don't even know if you can sell out anymore. Like
mhm.
you can kind of sell out, but like the big companies won. We're all
Yeah.
we're all just trying to survive in like a duopoly at this point. Your
Yeah.
job is no longer to not sell out. Your job is to survive.
Right.
This is a good one. This is really
Yeah. And
positive.
that's a yeah. Yeah, yeah, I guess it's debatable whether it's positive, but I think it was good to talk about, you know,
Hey,
regardless.
still standing. Still standing.